Hello, hello. We are here for our weekly alchemy message where we are unpacking our approach to this week's spiritual lessons. And so part of the synchronicity of this week's messages is that it has aligned with the Torah portion for the week, as it does so many times. And the Torah portion of the week is trying to solidify in us the concept that we don't own anything ourselves, but everything that we are and everything that we have comes from one true source, the endless, the light of the Creator. And so just like the moon, right? We are the moon. And God and Christ are represented by the sun. God is eternal and ever giving, ever sharing, ever emanating in an unconditional way, just like the sun is. And just like the moon, we reflect the light of the sun, but we have no light of our own. And our light wanes and waxes based on our direct connection with the sun, right? If that connection is obscured, then our light is obscured. So when we go through life thinking that I own this and I achieved that and I did this and that's mine, even in the negative sense, oh, I made this terrible mistake, oh, I failed, oh, this and that. It's egocentric, and it is taking possession consciously of things that aren't really coming from us. And so that does not bear affinity with the Creator, and therefore it cuts us off from the ultimate flow of blessings. So we'll get more into this explanation, but first I wanted to show you guys the cards, and then you can listen to like the 2-minute audio, and then we'll unpack each card. Also, this Saturday for our Secret Teachings of Jesus episode, we're doing a part 2 of saying 15 from last week because it totally aligned with this week's message, and I wanted to share some of the Zohar lessons from the week, like I've done before, probably with the iPad, very rudimentarily stitched in. You guys didn't seem to mind the other time, so we'll keep doing a shitty job. All right, so our first card out. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to that episode. I think there's just been so much, so many of the lessons that have been aligning this week, and especially as our readings have aligned even more fully with those concepts throughout the week. So I always have such a sense of childlike wonder and awe when that happens. So excited about that episode. That will be, I record those videos on Saturday night after I get home from work around midnight, and then I upload them late at night. So you can either have a late night Saturday video or early morning Sunday, or whenever you watch it. Okay, so our first card out from the Wild Unknown Alchemy is Copper, followed by Summer, followed by Lightning. I want to read from the book for you guys, Copper and the Lightning card. We had Summer recently, and that's fairly straightforward. Copper, underneath Copper, we have 7 of Cups. Underneath Summer, we have Page of Pentacles. And underneath Lightning, we have the 4 of Pentacles. So I'm going to let you guys listen to the audio, and then we'll be right back. Our fertility to manifest abundance and fulfillment is being thwarted by subconscious defense mechanisms that have produced patterns that have cut off our connection to the flow of our blessings. We're currently on the precipice of bearing the fruit of our efforts, but we are coming up to a critical juncture where our old reflexive inclination trips us up right before we reach the finish line. This pattern is likely connected to a desire to control that manifests as perfectionism. The more we cling to the illusion of this false sense of security, the more controlling we become. This consciousness severs our connection to the Creator by creating dissonance with the attributes of the light. This consciousness is rooted in fear, lack, and doubt, and is steeped in the arrogant idea that we are doing it all ourselves, and that both our perceived successes as well as our perceived failures are solely our own. However, when we shift our consciousness to the understanding that we are vessels, empty of our own light, but channels for the light of the Creator, we don't own any of it. We're simply instruments for allowing it to pass through. We can then be at peace knowing that the light is the source of all fulfillment and is present at all times. Our desire is strengthened by our emuna, and our emuna is strengthened by our desire. When we let go of our grip on the illusion of control, this is an act of faith that increases our vessel's capacity to receive. When we understand the true source of our blessings, we connect with the source of these blessings. It's not that the flow of the blessings then alleviates our fear, but rather when we overcome our fears, we align with the flow of blessings. All right, so the first pairing we have is copper paired with 7 of Cups. 7 of Cups card is like, it's kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's about like exploring our options and making choices and dreaming and imagining and having like this fantasy where you play it all out in your mind. But that can be helpful or it can be destructive, because that can help you flesh out your vision, your creative vision, or the vision of your desire, so that you have clarity around it. But if you stay in that place too long, you can become indecisive and you can start falling into this like sort of like intoxication of being in the dream world, and you can kind of fall prey to illusion. And I think that what's interesting about these two cards together, and you'll see it when I read copper, but this week is the second to the last week of the counting of the Omer. Now, just to catch you up in case you haven't heard me explain this, the period of time between the parting of the Red Seas during Passover, and then for 49 days, there's this period of time called the counting of the Omer. And on the 49th day, there's a holiday called Shavuot. And this is the moment, the day, the celebration that commemorates when the Israelites had consecrated themselves and God met with them on Mount Sinai and gave them the Torah. Now, the important thing to notice about this is the place that they were in when they received the Torah. They didn't receive the Torah when they arrived at the Promised Land. They received the Torah from the desert. There's everything, every detail that is in the Old Testament, and specifically in the Old Testament or in the Bible, there's a reason for it. There's a reason why they mention that. There's a reason why they were in the landscape they were in, or because they were sitting by a well, or all of those little details mean something. And so the desert represents a place where there's no we don't own anything. We don't have property. We don't have anything of our own. We can't plant seeds and roots and grow food for ourselves. Like, we don't have ownership over anything. We're not growing anything. We're not settled. Like, we can't claim anything as our property. So in the desert, we are in a place of void, right? Nothing is ours. It is a place void of vegetation, right? Well, all the things that we want, like fertile vegetation and fresh water readily available, and flowers and fruits and vegetables and animals and all of these things, all the life that makes life full of vitality and movement and beauty. Like, none of that exists out in the desert. The desert is a very harsh teacher, right? And so it was in that place of becoming empty that we received the fullness of the Torah. Now, we've talked about this concept on this channel before, probably in Secret Teachings of Jesus, but when we are like, there's a process that we go through of self-emptying so that we rid ourselves of the lesser fulfillment. Like, when we go through times of challenge and we feel like we're being stripped of things, we feel like our ego is being stripped, and, things are being, removed from our life. And we're like, what's going on? And it's like all these things that aren't truly getting us to our highest good, or are thwarting our potential. It's like we are filling up on junk food instead of waiting and keeping our appetite for the real meal, right? So when we take instant gratification and we seek for temporary relief, and we think about, what feels good in the moment, but we don't think about the long-term consequences, or saving making our choices around long-term value rather than short-term gratification, right? We are kind of getting full on the lesser light instead of emptying ourselves so that we can fully receive the fullness of the highest light, of divine plan, of divine blessings that actually give fulfillment, and they don't just dissipate from our hands like someone's trying to pour water into our hands and we don't have anything to keep it, right? If you have a glass, like, say you have a wine glass and it's full of boxed wine, and someone opens a bottle of vintage wine. You don't want to pour that vintage wine on top of your boxed wine. That would be silly, because then you would be diluting the fineness and the value of the aged vintage wine. So you would want to empty your glass and cleanse and purify that glass so that none of the impurities are going to cross-contaminate the vintage fine wine that you're going to try. You don't want to do anything to mess with the bouquet. So too, are we taken through processes to rid our soul of this lesser version of self and this lesser version of fulfillment and light that we grab from all of these like empty husks in life, which are just vessels holding packets of light, all the light that we get from everywhere is the creator. The creator's within these things. That's what gives them the light. But we're reaching for the wrong vessels. We're reaching for them in the wrong form, or we're reaching for them in the wrong context, expecting them to be the fulfillment that we're looking for. And then we get high for an instant, and then we crash, and then we're disappointed, and then we're left longing and searching for more again. So part of the process of purifying and elevating our soul is to purge ourselves and rid ourselves of that lesser light, empty the vessel so we can receive the fullness, right? So I think right now we are seeing, and we're kind of looking at everything in front of us, and we're seeing, okay, this is truly me, and this is an integrity with my path, and this really isn't. And maybe this attachment here needs to be reevaluated, and we're in order to receive the fullness of that Torah like that moment where the Israelites received the Torah, like we also have to go through a process of the desert, of challenge, of feeling lack, of feeling fear, and facing those things. And so that's what that 49 days is, the counting of the Omer. So while we're here, like looking at our dreams and our goals and our desires, and we're considering our plans and the choices and decisions that we have to make, let's read Copper. Also noting that as we're thinking about copper, the copper is associated with Venus. Now, at the end of this month, we have a second full moon. We have a blue moon. And so the second full moon of the month is actually in Sagittarius, and Jupiter is going to be conjunct with Venus, which are both very benefic planets. So they're going to be aspected in a positive way, which is going to increase the flow of Venus-themed things like improvements in relationships, improvements in our love life, improvements in our security and finances, and maybe the things that enrich the beauty and inspirational aspects of our life as well. So the thing is with Jupiter, it's like the more you give to Jupiter, the more it can work with to expand those things. And so when we make a sacrifice, like the Israelites would consecrate themselves and they made a sacrifice to the Lord, and the Torah came down. When we make sacrifice, that draws down more blessings as well. That's us emptying the vessel of our ego, because we're not making animal sacrifices anymore. We realize that doesn't really change us any, but we make monetary sacrifices. Like yesterday we were talking about tithing, and tithing is like a way you can sort of like in a spiritual way launder your money so that it's blessed and not tainted with curses. So if we're selfish with our money and we keep it all to ourselves and we don't tithe or do an act of sharing with a portion of it, then it's like we've hoarded it all, and then it's tainted with like kind of like curses. But when we tithe, we acknowledge that the money is not really ours, that it didn't really come from us, that even the opportunity that we had to earn that money was given to us by the creator of the whole simulation that we're in, that we're living in. So knowing that, giving that portion back is an act of restriction that actually cleanses and purifies and blesses the money and helps it go further and expand. So what's interesting too is that having like acknowledged the source of all things and talking about tithing, last night I mentioned that like in recent weeks I had been having a really hard time with money this year. And I had also made the conscious connection that I had been in a state of lack and fear and anxiety about tithing because of my tight money. And I kind of like knew in a sense, like this is this sort of limbo that I'm in with money is being exacerbated by the fact that I'm not tithing. And I was still feeling the fear and the lack. And finally, like recently, I was just like, oh, the feeling of it had overcome me. I did not like skipping out on that any longer. And I was like, okay, even if this is, you know, in a way financially, it feels financially irresponsible, I got to do it. This is the creator's money, and the creator will take care of me. And so I've had 2 of my best nights this year in the last 5 days. So these are very powerful concepts, and things can turn around very quickly. I've also adjusted my prayers at night, and instead of praying, you know, for circumstances to change, like I have this, you know, prayer list or whatever, and I not only pray for my own transformation within my mind and my consciousness and my heart, but I've also prayed for circumstances to change. And I realized, you know, after the lesson with Rav Ashlag, kind of scorning his student for praying for like the circumstances to change, and he was like, have I wasted all my time on you? Like the circumstances are the opportunities. Like they're giving you an opportunity to transform. You need to pray for you to change, not the circumstances. The circumstances will change when you change. You're the source of the circumstances. So the past few nights, I've been praying. I haven't been praying over the circumstances anymore. I've only been praying over a change in my heart, mind, soul, and strength. And I think that that has shifted the energy too in my waking experience in life through the week, aligning with also the really good paydays for this year. So I'm only saying this as a testimony so we can, see the example of how fast that can happen once we change our consciousness around an issue, and once we take the action and take that leap of faith. It doesn't always happen that way because we don't want to look at things transactionally, but we also too want to understand the connections and the way things are related to one another. And when we can see them in action, I think that's a learning experience. So I'm going to read Copper. Fertility, the womb, and Venus. In ancient times, on an island called Cyprus, copper was mined extensively to make vessels and tools. Remember, we're always talking about the vessel, right? We are the vessel. Our effort is the vessel. The vessel is one of the most perpetually used and revisited metaphors for reality. It's everything boils down to light and vessel. What vessel is what can receive the light. Vessel is what draws down the light. Vessel is our capacity to contain the light. Have you ever this is a funny story, but have you ever like been out and about and like maybe like on vacation or something and you're like trying to find weed and you find it, like somebody's like, yeah, that guy over there probably has it, and it's like some sketch dude, and then he's like, oh yeah, I can hook you up, and then he like has like, I don't know, like an eighth in his pocket, but it's just like there's no container, there's no bag, he just gives it to you like in a handful. You're like, I gotta put something in this. Or like back to the fine vintage wine example, like if you want to have some of that wine, you need a vessel to put the wine in. It's like God is always trying to pour out to us, but we have to have the vessel to contain those blessings that are coming our way. So I thought it was interesting that copper is all, it's directly, tied to this idea of copper vessels in ancient Greece. So this island is the same fertile ground of Aphrodite, the goddess associated with the planet Venus, and the forces of love, pleasure, and fertility. Such is the magic of copper. The golden-hued metal elicits delight and mystique, even a sense of awe. The copper card marks the arrival of Eros into the lab. It is likely the alchemist has been hard at work for too long, prioritizing scholarly pursuits over sensual pleasure. Get ready for a shift of priorities, for an awakening of the heart and the life-generating centers of the body. In the true alchemical experiment, nothing is excluded or separate from the work. Bring sensuality into the fold and embrace it with reverence and curiosity. Aphrodite smiles upon you. So yes, if you've just been all cerebral and up in your head and, like grinding it out, like you kind of get to the point where you're like, there's nothing pleasure. You're not taking any pleasure in the material realm. We shouldn't like worship the material realm, but we should enjoy and take in the beauty and the pleasure of what's here, and like I love summertime because like in the spring, because like the garden is starting to bloom and the different flowers are going through their different phases of blossoming, and there are different stages of things to take in. There's smells, there's feelings, there's sensations, beautifying your environment so that it's inspiring and comforting to you, right? That awakens the heart, right? When we get so cerebral and everything's shut down and there's no beauty around us, it starts to shut down our spirit, shut down our heart. In fact, there's been a lot of research coming out over the last couple of years about how these studies with like art historians and design, people have gone and looked at, like, during times of like extreme fascism in places or whatever, where fascism is, that like they want to make everything look very severe and stern and industrial and mechanical and cold and stark, and they take the color out of things. And I've noticed a lot of people throwing back like all of these images of like old parking lots full of colorful cars, and a picture of a kitchen that used to be all this warm wood and color and patterns and things, and now it's just like everything is gray, white, black, like it's just like so sterile. And it's like our soul actually craves this beauty, right? God made all this beauty, and without it, it's like we start, like our soul just starts to feel faded, So I think that there is multiple things going on here. I think that the more that we realize the true source of all that's coming through and all that is, and we understand the context of the difficulties that we might be facing temporarily, I think that helps us let go of the severity and the rigidity and the fear and the overcompensating to be perfectionistic and to cling to control. And then we can let go and relax and start to be at peace in that fulfillment, knowing that we're going to be protected and provided for, and carried and cared for. But this is all part of the process of perfecting the vessel. So we have this week, and then next week is the grand finale. And so it's this week when we're really starting to, these concepts and this change and this transformation over this period should be taking root and kind of bearing fruit here. Now, this is illustrated by the summer card, which is the time of the year where your growth cycle is coming into its peak, right? Its climax. Things are beginning to fruit. This is the fruition of the cycle. The Page of Pentacles is the enthusiastic student. So we've really been trying to like study ourselves and learn and look at our patterns so that we can unravel what has been holding us back from really living into our full potential. We can see how, our automatic inclination or our reflexive response systems have been sort of sabotaging us before we can get to our next level, like at every turn. And we're all like this. We all have something. It's just built into our tikkun, right? So we're identifying what that is. And I think we're truly making headway at real transformation and real change. And so I think that we're in a way, we're coming to the end of a growth cycle, and things are coming into fruition and things are materializing because of this. And we've been really embracing the opportunity to learn and to change. But as sure as there is a tomorrow, as soon as one growth cycle ends, there's maybe a period of like a short period of peace and harmony, and then another growth cycle starts again. Which brings us to the Lightning card and Four of Pentacles. So our, need to control comes from our ego and our fear, and our need to control comes from the assumption that it's all up to us, right? That I have to do it all myself. And letting go of that notion and really focusing on the concept that God is my source and that I'm not doing it myself, and that I'm actually, even if I think things are unfair, there's a spiritual law of the universe that we are always getting better than what we deserve. We are always getting the merciful end of the deal, even when we are like stuck with a shit popsicle. So I've been accepting that truth, trying to kind of take that vitamin and chase it with some humility. And I have experienced this week, like thinking about going into work, and instead of praying that I'll have a good night and praying for a good shift, I just say like, God, I'm grateful and I know I'm going to have the shift that you have planned for me, and I trust you, And I trust that you have everything in store that's supposed to be there. And I'm not perfect once I get to work. So every now and then I'll be like, still complaining. But I have seen things happen this week that were like such unexpected turns of events. Like people really like tipping me, more than expected, leaving additional tip, like things like that aren't necessarily like things that you would expect in this economy. But it's not that I'm not in control of this. God's in control of it. It's not mine. It's God's, right? And God's bringing me these things. And so we have to let go of our attachments to our own ideas. See, I love this imagery for the Four of Pentacles, because it's like this woman, we see her standing outside, like on the other side of this gate that's got all these locks. And it's like, we wonder, okay, is her house just off behind her where we can't see it? Or is she looking at the house and she hasn't been able to walk in and be in that reality because she's clinging to the smaller version, right? She's clinging to her possessions. This is mine. This is my house. And because of that, she's trying to maintain control, but she's keeping herself in a lesser vision. She's holding herself outside of entering into the real vision, the truer vision. So let's read the lightning. Perfectionism, facade, and hesitation. The stage of leucosis is a complex topic in alchemy. On the one hand, it represents purification of the materials. On the other hand, it's the phase in which the alchemist may mistake the work as complete. On the surface, everything seems perfect, pristine, well thought through, and quite complete. In actuality, the alchemist has been tricked by their own facade of perfection. Their work has hardly begun. Righteousness and fear are the great errors of leucosis. Right? So what have we been talking about recently? Fear keeping us frozen. And then the other, fear keeping us frozen so that we can't tithe our money. We can't share our money because we're too afraid, right? The other idea is that, I've done all this myself. This is my accomplishment. This is mine. I own this. Righteousness tripping us up. So fear leading to a sense of miserliness and control, and then also a sense of righteousness that is kind of leading to entitlement, an attitude of entitlement, which keeps us separate from our blessings because neither of those attributes are in vibrational alignment with the Creator, right? The Creator is in the endless realm. There's no beginning and no end, no start, no stop. It's eternal, right? It's endless light. It's not a lot of light up there. It's the endless light, right? And so once we sort of put a graven image on something or project our assumptions on something, then we limit that thing. That's why we're not supposed to put a graven image on God and try to conceptualize God as something we can understand, because we would only be putting God in a limited version of God's endless, eternal, unfathomable nature, right? So on the surface, everything seems perfect and pristine and well thought through and quite complete. But in actuality, the alchemist has been tricked by their own facade of perfection. Their work has hardly begun. Righteousness and fear are the great errors of leucosis. This card arrives to remind us to get our hands dirty. No one is separate from or above anyone else. Rather, every alchemist is a kid in the laboratory, tinkering away with the elements of their life. No more fretting over your next move. What is this? That indecision, the fretting, I don't know, do I choose this? Do I choose that? Like getting lost in that, dreaming and never materializing, right? Because of being overly perfectionistic. It's like we can't take a leap of faith and then just just name something and try it and make that choice because we're so afraid to own that choice, right? What if I make a mistake? It's like, stop being so controlling and let go and let God and take a leap of faith. And if you need to, pivot, the universe is self-correcting. And it's not that we should adopt a haphazard attitude because of that, but we don't want to stay locked up in fear and unable to make a move or to truly live life or to truly put ourselves out there for fear of an irreparable mistake. No more fretting over your next move, fearing how others will perceive you. It's time to crack open, become who you are. The world needs your true colors. So the key words here are perfectionism, facade, and hesitation. All right. So if this week and next week are our last weeks of this cosmic window of gifts to challenge us so that we can see the parts of ourselves that are waiting to be elevated. We don't want to think, oh, look, I'm seeing a few fruits of my labor. I'm seeing a few good signs. I'm good. I'm chill. Now I can coast, right? That would be a big mistake. It would be a big mistake for me to get in my head, oh, I've got a couple of big tips this week. I must be out of the is it out of the water? We're out of the woods, right? I'm not out of the woods yet, right? And so it's like, I'm finished with my test, I can leave class. It's like, no, we want to be the student that stays after and asks for the extra assignment. So we have 2 more weeks of this blessed time of desert to really hone in and get to the root of our fear and the ways that fear creates a desire to control and try to manipulate, right? And so even just changing that concept of the prayer, right? Instead of praying for my circumstances to change, instead of praying for this annoying person to be out of my life, I pray to be grateful for their annoying presence because they're obviously placed in my life for a reason. So instead of praying that they're taken away and I don't have to deal with it anymore, I pray, give me the wisdom to know what you are asking me to do in order to correct this tikkun, right? Instead of praying that I get out of this financial stress, pray for the insight and guidance and self-control to manage my money the best that I can and to have the faith to share and to not be stingy, but to give that 10% before I do anything else and make sure that is tithed and taken care of, right? But yeah, this is very interesting. And 2, I think when we change and then our circumstances also change and shift, it's very easy to get comfortable in that new bright place that we're in and forget that this is an ongoing journey, that we are not gold, but we are silver and we need constant polishing. So the process is never over. And the way that we get into danger is to think, oh, I'm good right now. Like I've done a lot of changing and I'm just gonna, gonna take a vacation from, improving myself or going through any lessons right now. Like I'm all good. Like that is dangerous and foolish territory. So I think that we are being warned that just because we start to see the circumstances change, we don't need to rest on our laurels. Have you ever been in a team like working environment and it's like you pay someone a compliment, you tell them they're doing a really great job and that you've seen that they've been putting in the effort, and then that person is like, oh great, and they stop making an effort and they stop doing a good job and then they just start kind of phoning it in because they're like, oh, I got the acknowledgement. Like, they think I'm doing great. So I'm just going to phone it in now because I've got the reputation. That's called resting on your laurels. So when you're given that good sign that the ball, the wheel of fortune is ticking in your favor, like, keep putting in the effort, keep putting in maximum effort. Don't take your foot off the gas. Don't ease up. Go harder. Go more fully, right? Because the more empty of our own self and our own selfishness and our own ego we can be, the more vessel, the more capacity that we actually have to connect with the true light of source, the true light of the creator, and receive those blessings. Remember, it all boils down to vibrational resonance. If we are in a vibrational affinity with God, with the attributes of the creator, then we're going to draw close and we're going to be in that flow of cosmic flow and blessing and ease and provision and fulfillment. And when we are not resonating with the attributes of God, and we're not vibrating with those attributes, then we cut ourselves off from that flow because we're not in vibrational resonance anymore. We're in dissonance. So it's like it shuts off our vessel, and so then all that fine vintage wine is spilling out everywhere and being wasted. So it's good when we empty ourselves of our ego, right? When we make ourselves less, we become more, right? Not because we self-deprecated and made ourselves small, but because we took the part of ourself out that wasn't truly us to begin with. The facade, the defense mechanism, the thing we put on to, hide what we don't want people to see, all of those things, the performance, oh, I've got this, or, oh, I'm a victim, whatever it is that we put on as a mask, and or whatever our ego masks to shield us, to defend us, to try to control everything, even out of our awareness. We are catching all those things. We're identifying those masks and we're removing them. We have been dismantling our autopilot, subconscious programming, so that we're not just living in a state of our easy inclination, our automatic response system, the autopilot programming, right? We want to be sovereign and thinking sentient beings that are truly using our free will and not just living in a reflexive, affected, response all the time. So that is all for tonight. Tomorrow we will be back together for our weekly romance oracle reading. Feels like a fast week has gone by. I'm so excited. My 2 days off for the next couple of days. Tonight's my Friday, and I'm tickled pink about it. I'm tired. All right, you guys, that's all for tonight. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.